Every once in a while, a company builds something that genuinely deserves to succeed. And yet, month after month, almost nobody buys it. I was part of one such project that could have come from its own mother. That was never just a number on a slide. Then an audit uncovered one assumption we'd never thought to question. We weren't struggling because people rejected the product. We were struggling because we misunderstood how the decision was actually being made. Sometimes a product doesn't stall because people say no. It stalls because nobody knows who should say yes first. The company believed in what it had built, not as a sales pitch, but as something that could genuinely improve outcomes for mothers and infants who needed it. And we weren't alone. Many of the specialists closest to this category believed the product had a place too. On paper, everything seemed to be pointing in the right direction. So for the next 6 months, we did what most teams would do. We trained field teams, we met with specialists, we refined our messaging, we launched awareness initiatives. Every month, we expected momentum. Every month, we were disappointed. I still remember walking through a hospital ward around that time, watching infants being fed formula instead of milk that could have come from their own mothers. That was the moment this stopped feeling like a sales target on a slide and started feeling like a problem we simply hadn't solved yet. Nobody was wrong. The company believed in what it had built. The doctors were acting in the best interests of their patients, and somewhere between those two perfectly reasonable positions, a category stood still for 6 months. The product was a breast pump, a device that allows a mother to express and store breast milk for her baby. For a long time, nothing about the numbers made sense. The product solved a real problem. The science hadn't changed. The specialists we spoke to weren't dismissing it, and yet, adoption barely moved. So we treated it like a problem that could be solved with better execution. We questioned our awareness campaigns. We questioned our messaging. We questioned pricing. We questioned whether we had done enough to educate specialists. Every explanation seemed reasonable. None of them explained why the category remained almost unchanged. The strange part was, we weren't hearing people say no. We just weren't hearing yes often enough. That difference took us much longer to notice than I'd like to admit. Until then, we'd been asking one question: how do we get more people to choose this product? Eventually, someone asked a different one: who actually makes this decision? That question changed the direction of the entire project. Instead of trying to improve another campaign, we stepped back and audited what was actually happening. Not what we assumed was happening. What was actually happening? And that was the first time we realized we might have been solving the wrong problem all along. The audit didn't uncover a marketing mistake. It uncovered 2 assumptions we'd built the entire launch on and never tested. The first was about when mothers would need the product. We believed it was primarily for medical situations: mothers recovering from a C-section, mothers who physically couldn't breastfeed comfortably. Those situations were real, but they appeared to represent only a small part of the category, not the center of it. The second was about who would adopt it first. We assumed working mothers would be the earliest users because they had the least time. It sounded perfectly reasonable, but most new mothers weren't returning to work immediately. During those first months, time turned out to be a much smaller constraint than we'd assumed. So we stopped looking at our campaigns and started looking more closely at the lives of the mothers we thought we already understood. That's when the pattern finally appeared. The mothers embracing the product weren't trying to replace breastfeeding. They were trying to share it. A husband could take the 2 a.m. feed. A grandparent could help. A nanny could step in. Some mothers told us that a full night's sleep was the first real rest they'd had since giving birth. Others spoke about the relief of knowing they didn't have to carry every single feeding on their own. For 6 months, we'd been looking in the wrong place. The product hadn't changed. The mothers hadn't changed. Only the job had. We thought we were selling a medical device. In reality, mothers were using it to redistribute one of the most demanding responsibilities in the household. The mechanism was never the pump. It was the transfer of responsibility. The product didn't fail because it was wrong. It stalled because for 6 months we kept answering the wrong question. We were explaining what the product did. Mothers were making a decision about who gets to help at 2 a.m. and who doesn't have to carry it alone. Once you see that question, what job is this actually being hired for? You start noticing it everywhere. Not just in products, in campaigns, in pricing, in decisions that suddenly make a lot more sense. One small decision inside that room changed everything outside it. Over the last few cases, we've kept opening different rooms and finding decisions that were made long before the customer ever saw the result. Once it was a children's product. where reassurance wasn't just built into the product but into the story surrounding it. Once it was a supplement, where what the label suggested mattered almost as much as what was actually inside. Once it was a prescription, where the decision could be shaped one conversation at a time. And once it was a meeting room, where a struggling product found a new path before the market ever knew the discussion had happened. This time, the product didn't need a better story. It needed the company to ask a different question. Not how do we sell this, but who actually makes this decision. Different products, different rooms, the same pattern. Somewhere inside the system, an assumption gets made, and everything after just organizes itself around it. The next time something genuinely good struggles to sell, ask what the room assumed about the person on the other side. This is the influence room. See you in the next case.